I've now reached the decreasing area of the hat, and now the marker yarns are going to come into their own. Up to this point they have just run up the work to show us where we are and divide the hat into 1/8 portions. So here is my first decrease, and that decrease has been made somewhere convenient between those two marker yarns. And this allows me to put my decreases in different places on each successive round, and yet not bunch up the decreases all in one spot. So if I make one decrease between each pair of marker yarns, then I know I'm decreasing at the appropriate rate. So looking back in this section, there's a decrease made here, and there's a decrease made here, and I need to decrease yet again. But I don't want to decrease in the middle of my motif, so I'm going to do it with the next 2 stitches. There are many ways to do double knit decreases, but the easiest is to separate them out. So I've taken my 2 front stitches, I let the back one off the needle, and then I can pop those 2 stitches back and make my appropriate decrease. So I'm doing knit 2 together there, and just checking which way my stitches are facing because I have had these on and off the needle a couple of times. And I'm going into them to purl those 2 together. On a hat, it doesn't matter if the direction of slope is not the same on both sides. Also, we're not stacking our decreases up to make a pretty line, so we can use the easiest decrease on either side. And now I'm going to continue working without shapings until I get to the marker position. One more pair, running my eye up that column, that's where the marker yarn needs to go. I can flip my marker. I have cut the bottom of the loop because I started these with a loop of yarn at the bottom, so I just cut the loop so that I can pull each of the yarns up the work as I go. Now the other thing I'm going to do before I move on to the next section is check my number of pairs. 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, and that jives. I've checked my previous sections and they also have 11 when I've finished decreasing. If I found I didn't have the right number, I could either skip the decrease or add an extra one, because it doesn't really matter. You're sprinkling them around, so every time you go round you can make adjustments. But the idea of not lining up the decreases allows us to keep putting pattern motifs in. As the space between the markers becomes smaller, I'm going to reduce the size of the motif. So this is a 4 stitch wide motif and 6 rows tall. The next size of motif is 3 stitches wide and 3 rows tall. And the very last motif is just a little square of 4 stitches, 2 stitches wide and 2 rows high. But by working in between the marker yarns, I can make my decreases, scatter them round the hat and keep control of things. This is my beginning of round marker with the knot in it. That's just a sort of reference point, and so from this point I should find that between the markers I have 11 pairs of stitches. Decrease rounds are worked approximately every 3rd round initially, and then gradually working up to every alternate round as you approach the top of the hat. And as you can see, the marker yarns actually show you how that 1/8 of a hat is diminishing away, so they act as a sort of record. As the hat gets smaller, you start popping in the smaller motifs.